the world is waking up so quickly that the issue is they had to pull this because all their cards are on the table. So what happens is exactly what Jason said. They weren't expecting the awakening or consciousness to rise so quickly. And basically, they've had to force this one out. They weren't really ready for it. And now they have to keep pushing the pressure, because if they pull the pressure off now, we're all going to slam them to bits. And they're getting slammed anyway. You go on to Channel 7, Channel 9, Channel 10, Bill Gates, vaccines, science, any of these websites, Facebooks, Instagram, social media, they're getting absolutely decimated by smart people who are understanding the narrative. So they know they have to continue this. They've committed to this timeline, which means they're going to keep amping it up, which means we're going to keep waking up. So basically, in my eyes, they're fucked either way. They're finished, you know what I mean? But they're going to basically do every trick in the book they have, because they don't want to lose their children. They don't want to lose their blood. They don't want to lose their power. They don't want to lose their banking system. Their control structure is falling apart, and it's only really held together by the mainstream news anyway, and fear. Apart from the mainstream news and fear, they've got nothing. If you walk out in the streets for this COVID scamdemic, the only remnants of that as a pandemic going on is stickers on the ground, idiots wearing masks, and people standing away from each other. That is the only thing we have to see that people are actually in a pandemic. The rest is on the news. There's empty hospitals. There's fake death certificates. They're not able to test for it. The test kits are contaminated. You know what I mean? The list goes on and on and on. So if you use your eyes, your ears, your mouth, and your senses, you walk outside and you're like, what pandemic? And they had to have a boogeyman which was more intense than terrorism, because terrorism was falling apart. People all around the world were realizing that, hey, it's not the Muslims, it's not Osama bin Laden, it's not this, it's actually the CIA, it's Israeli intelligence, it's Mossad, it's the Zionists. And so many people are catching on to this, and we outnumber them by 10,000 to 1. We outnumber them by so many that they have to keep pulling these strings, and the mind control and the puppeteering, because otherwise what is going to happen is they're going to get dragged out into the streets and they're going to get killed. Their friends and their family, and they're all going to end up either getting killed or in prison. That's the end outcome, which is going to happen regardless. I'm not saying it's a good or a bad thing, but you know what? 40 million people die every year of starvation and hunger, and that's because of these assholes. So 20,000 people wiped off the planet. I'm pretty happy with that. I'd like to do it another way, but we're in a war now. People don't realize that we're actually very far down the rabbit hole of a war. We're being poisoned with our food, the air we breathe, the toxicity in our drinking water, the phone tower frequencies, not just 5G, 4G is killing people. You know, 4G and Wi-Fi routers and mobile phones is bad enough as it is, let alone 5G and 6G, which is a satellite system that Elon Musk, the fake billionaire, wants to put up in the sky and bathe every single inch of Earth with 6G technology. So it's a very big plan. And the hardest thing is for people to wrap their head around what I'm saying and what Jason said, that these bloodlines go back for thousands and thousands of years. And people think that their religion is the real religion and that every other one's fake and things like that. It's like, guys, these people, these half humans, whatever you want to call them, have been infiltrating every facet of our lives for many, many years. Religion's part of it. Banking system, the slavery system's part of it. The education system from schools is a big part of it. That's the indoctrination system. The medical system is a depopulation system. Then you have the military, which is supposed to be looking after us, which is actually the long arm of the cabal and the deep state, which is used to invade countries, steal oil, steal gold, cultivate the heroin, send the heroin back with the CIA planes, distribute it with the banks like HSBC, who's already been caught out, money laundering for terrorist organizations, for child trafficking institutes, for drug dealers. But what did the judge say when they went to court? Oh, HSBC is too big to go down. We can't really do anything, you know? So the sooner we all realize that the war is against a bunch of Zionists and bankers and people who work in these corporations and are controlling arm behind the scenes, who their names are not even the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers and things like that. There's names behind that who are hidden. Once we realize that it's basically every single person against about 20,000 people worldwide, and we stop buying into their programs, we stop buying their food, we say no, we peacefully non-comply, we stop eating the shitty food, it all falls apart. And the most important thing, which I always say, is this is a spiritual war. This is a spiritual war about taking your time, your energy, your vital life force, your chi, and your soul's essence. They want you to think that you're just a skin suit walking around aimlessly and you're a sinner and you need to be saved by some demigod They don't want you knowing that you are a God and you are a creator being. They don't want you getting into the core of who you are and releasing your trauma, which is a big part of the pedophilia and the child sacrifice. It's about traumatizing children so they never reach their full potential. They have an understanding of what kids are being birthed and where they're coming in through what families, and they can redirect the birthing process, and you end up in a family full of Freemasons and you get abused. And if you don't have the protocols and the processes to clear your trauma, you'll end up becoming a pedophile yourself, or you'll end up being a person who does the same traits that happened to you. Because genetics is like a cycle. We have to break the cycle or it's passed on to our kids. So this cycle has been going for a long time, but now as a mass, as a civilization, we're breaking it. We're looking into native cultures, into their traditions, and being connected to earth and plant medicine, and going beyond the unseen realms. You know, people are clearing the heavy metals and the toxins out of their bodies. They're getting into meditation and yoga. They're realizing that we need nature to survive. There's a big awareness that technology is making us sick. These things are like basic, simple things. If you don't watch the news and the indoctrination, it's simple. How do you feel in nature? How do you feel in the city? You know what I mean? But which one feels better? Very simple. When you eat really good, healthy food, high vibe food, how do you feel compared to eating Macca's, KFC, Coca-Cola? It's very simple. Like, what does your body feel? What is your soul telling you? And when you're disconnected because of food, toxins, bad water, bad thought processes, it's very hard for people to put the pieces of the puzzle together. They're not going to be able to understand that there's a controlling arm in every single facet of our lives. They're going to be like, come on, mate, that's a conspiracy, because their brain is not going to allow them, because their mind, this is what Jason says, you can't put the pieces of the puzzle together if your mind's swimming in a sea of toxic soup. So the plan is so broad, it's so fanned out into every facet of our lives, that it does take a bit of researching to wrap your head around it. But once that penny drops, which is what's happening globally now, not just a penny is dropping, the whole coin jar is being tipped upside down. And I mean, if you look on those people's Instagrams and all the comments at Tom Hanks and the mainstream news, man, there is an awakening much, much bigger than what they're making out to be. So that's kind of my thoughts on where we're at. And my whole goal is about unity, about people working together, and about us not complying with a system that doesn't work for us, and focusing a lot more of our energy on creating a new world as opposed to fighting their own. We're gonna block their own, we're gonna block theirs, and we're gonna not be part of it, but we're gonna create a new one, which is much better, with free energy, with industrial hemp, with a monetary system or a trading system that actually benefits everyone, where you reevaluate the currencies. So all countries have a chance of getting up in this. You know, I mean, money's fiction, it's not real. We can build heaven on earth right here. We have all the power, all the money, all the technology, all the humans, and all the resources to have heaven on earth right now. And the only thing that's stopping us is the news and a bunch of pedophile Satanist puppets who are controlling things from the top.